Welcome to Recovery, the Whole Enchilada, a podcast dedicated to exploring the many layers of healing and growth within the recovery community. I'm your host, Peg McDermott, along with my beautiful co-host,
Heather Haman.
Hello, Heather.
Hello, Peg.
And together we share conversations that honor the complete recovery experience. And today's conversation is about anniversaries. Isn't that interesting? And quite good timing. At your behest, we wanted to talk more about anniversaries because I just celebrated an anniversary yesterday. Very grateful. And, going back to when I first got into recovery was back on January 27th, 1995. And I...
Wait. We got to do the math. How many years is
31.
that?
31
years.
31 years
Whoa.
of no alcohol in anywhere in my system.
Yay.
And it has been a huge transformation for me. And, going back, I got sober in Syracuse, New York, and I had always drank a lot around the holidays, and that particular holiday before going into 1995 was pretty bad for me. I could see my drinking escalating and getting worse. And I had been to see some friends who are in recovery, and I was able to experience what that was like, or what their life was like, kind of looking at it from the outside in. And I really wanted what they had. They seemed to have this sort of lightness of spirit and fun, and yet sort of this grounded peace. And I was nowhere near any of those traits.
How old were you?
36.
36. Okay.
Yeah, 36. And so I went to visit them in Virginia, here in Virginia, and I was living in New York at the time. And when I got back to New York, I don't know if it was that experience that just sort of put in my head, you know what, screw it, I'm going to drink my face off or whatever. I don't know what went through my mind, but that is when my drinking really started to take off. And I had never drank safely. It had always been to the point where I was drunk and displaying really bad behavior. And, there was no major, it was like a series of these little moral corruptions along my life line, my timeline. And I was at a point where I don't feel like I deserve to even be walking on this earth. I mean, that's where our disease takes us. You don't want to be here. And I'd gotten to the point where I was able to let just a teeny little bit of grace in that helped me to see that there was another way. God said, my higher power, whom I choose to call God, said it's time. And I was guided to Grace Episcopal Church at Syracuse University. And I went to my first meeting there and cried through the entire thing and knew. I don't remember what I said so much. I don't remember so much what anyone else said. I just remember how I felt. I felt safe, and I felt like I finally belonged somewhere, because I never really felt like I truly belonged anywhere. And that's one of the reasons I drank so much, because I wanted to feel included. And from the time I started to the time I stopped, I drank to get drunk. It wasn't very casual. It wasn't like I'm going to go to happy hour. I'm going to have a glass of wine. It was happy hours and happy days and many, many glasses of whatever I could get my hands on. It was never one. And it'll never be one for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking, did you get feedback from the universe ever in the terms of like the law or just the car problems? I mean, did you get things along the way? Because I'm always curious about that with people, like, because because friends can dump us and say, oh, whatever. But I'm talking about like other things that were pretty in our heads, like we got into a car accident because we were drinking. I mean, were there things like that along the way?
I got into several car accidents. None of them super serious, but enough where I did some damage to property. And I did have what they called it in New York, a DWI. It's a DUI here. But I had been driving while drunk. And I had drove drunk many, many times. I should have gotten many, many DUIs. And the one wasn't enough to stop me. At the time, I felt a lot of shame around being arrested for drinking and driving, because that's what I was doing. And I was putting the person that was in the car with me in danger. And did I think about that? Absolutely not. My main goal was to get alcohol and get drunk. And it didn't matter who it was affected. It didn't matter if I was unsafe. It just didn't matter. And you take that incident and you multiply it by many, by like 100. I had so many of those incidents. Thank gosh I didn't hurt anyone seriously. I mean, I hurt people with my words and my actions, but I didn't hurt anyone physically. Meaning they didn't get hurt with me driving, but it was a not yet. It was an absolute not yet. They say the elevator just continues to go down. We can get off the elevator at any point, or we can stay on the elevator and it'll keep going down. And the last stop is either death or a psych ward, jail. And thankfully that I didn't get to the point where I needed more harm in my life. I had gotten enough. It was like at that point, I felt so empty, and I had done all the things that I had done so many other times, is promising myself I'm not going to go out, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to drive, and I'm not going to behave badly. And I would have the best intentions, and that first drink would just shut everything down. I'd be like, I was off to the races. And that is what alcohol did to me. It changed my personality. It changed what was somewhat decent judgment while sober to really bad judgment in terms of who I hung out with, what I did, who I woke up with, how I got home. I would have no idea. And when you hear, and I know you understand this, Heather, when you hear the next morning, do you know what you did last night? Do you know what you said? And you see that look of disdain on the people's faces. I just wanted to sink into a hole in the floor. And that happened many times, but it wasn't enough for me to stop. It was an accumulation of things that I finally said. I had that experience with my friends in recovery, and I really loved what they had. And I knew I had a problem. And I was ready to stop the fight of what alcohol was doing to me and the conflict that I always had in me about drinking. And I continued to go. I continued to go to meetings. I continued to stick with the winners. I had to let a lot of people go. And I ended up moving. When I had about 18 months, I moved here to Northern Virginia. And this is where I've really grown up, and where my sobriety has grown up, and I have grown up. And, the years go by really, really fast. And I look back and I'm like, wow, those are a lot of years, and yet it seems like a blink of an eye. And I don't fool myself by thinking enough time's gone by and maybe I can drink safely now, because I know I can't. I know it in my bones. I cannot drink safely. That one drink will be like I drank for 31 years. So I'm really grateful for this milestone and how my life has changed as a result of my willingness to surrender to the fact that I have a disease and it's in remission, and the remission lasts 24 hours and it resets every 24 hours. And I have to get on my knees and pray and thank my higher power for keeping me sober yesterday. Please keep me sober today. I don't think for a minute that I can stray from, and I don't want to. I don't want to stray from this life. I love it. I feel now what I always chased with alcohol in me, some peace and some feeling of belonging and love and connection. I never felt those things, but I wanted them. And I thought alcohol could give those things to me, and it lied to me. It said it could. And initially I thought it did until it stopped.
I totally get that. And I guess the question that's been in my mind, and maybe in some of people that are listening, is, Peg, are you having fun?
Yes. I'm having so much fun. I really am.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, this is what I thought I was going to lose.
Yes.
I was never going to have fun again.
Exactly.
Have fun again.
I did think that. Yeah, I did. Because everything I did was around alcohol. Everything.
I just remember that was a real big hang up for me, because I was like, how am I going to have fun? And I remember the therapist, number whatever she was, I think she was 13, that said to me, well, what did you like to do when you were younger? Like before, when you were a kid, like, what did you do when you had fun? And I was like, oh, well, I was an all-star softball player. And then she's like, well, why didn't you go back to play softball? I'm like, I'm 40-something years old. I'm not going to go back and play softball. She goes, why not? There's an adult league. And, I did that. I had to find the right league, because I was in the big boys league, and that was not a good league. They threw that ball so hard, they bruised my hand. I went into the senior league because it was men 50 and over and women 40 and over. And so mostly it was in the mornings. And so mostly I played with these old guys that were in their like 70s. And I could play. They were slow runners. I worked first base, and I could do a double play when they came running, because they were so slow. And I had so much fun.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I could have so much fun, laughing and bantering. So a lot of this journey, I think, it's kind of recreating fun, without the alcohol. And there's just so many. Do you remember we had a group of us that were all kind of getting sober? We're all like sober around the same time. And we all wanted to go dancing. And we used to go to these clubs back in the day. So we decided as a group to go to that club downtown, wherever it was in the great section of town. And we went there and we danced as a group, and it was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've been doing. This is not letting go of this strategy of how to not feel our feelings, because that's what really it was all about, is learning how to feel all the feelings, right? But also to start with I just started with trying to feel happy and fun and enjoy hobbies again. I mean, I think I started knitting. Oh my God. I tried to sew. I tried to do crochet. I started painting again. I mean, there were so many things that I had let go of, and I started to do now because I had so much time.
Yes.
On my hands, right?
Right.
I wasn't hungover anymore. It was a big one. That took out days. Of my life.
Yeah. It's this, you're right about, the fun part. And there were some things I had to stop doing, like playing softball, because I played softball for many years, and there was a lot of alcohol around softball for me back then. And then I started to take up golf, and I never really associated golf with alcohol because I never really drank when I was golfing. And so I had to stop playing softball because it was a powerful association for me. And I was in a dart league, and we'd play darts in bars, and, I bowled. I mean, wherever I could get my hands on alcohol, I would do it. I was in 2 bowling leagues, and, when you bowled, you drank. When you played darts, you drank. When you played ball, you drank. And at least after the game. And so I did think, what am I going to do now that I'm not willing to do all those things anymore? Because I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. It would be hard. And I started with golf, and I started doing other things, and I really made meetings the central part of my life. I needed that. I needed to be around other people that understood how I felt I needed to see how they were living their lives one day at a time without alcohol, even going through shit in life. Because life doesn't change, we change. Our coping mechanisms change. I didn't need the alcohol to medicate me anymore. I had other things that help put this disease into remission. But I do have to remember I still have it. And what works for me are the rooms and are the people in the rooms and the authenticity and the pain that people are going through, and they share that. And I need to see that. I don't want to see anybody in pain, but it's part of life. And if they're sharing about their pain, I'm also seeing that they're able to do it and not drink. And that's what I needed to see. Wow, they're really getting through some tough stuff, deaths, bankruptcy. That's what I went through. I went through some very difficult things in sobriety. And I think my higher power timed it just right. Right? Timing's always perfect. That I got in just at the very second I was supposed to. I have no regrets that I didn't get in early enough because I wasn't ready. I was ready when I was ready. And that's what I see in others. I see much younger people coming in to recovery today, and I just love it. They're bypassing so much suffering and pain associated with this disease.
Yeah, it's funny when you're talking about like very true community support and the meetings were so vital. But I think also what was really vital, and I want to add this piece, were the meetings before the meetings, were the meetings after the meetings, were the lunches after the meetings, the dinner before, just the way that we met outside and continue, the Tupperware parties and all the different things that a lot of us got into. But it was there where I learned how to socialize and laugh and know that everyone in that room didn't have a drink in their hand. And we were all trying to find our way into like comfortableness in having relationships. Because I'll tell you, when I did my inventory, when I looked at my drinking patterns, I had a drink in hand starting probably at age 16. So I had about 25 years always in a social setting with a drink in hand. I didn't know how to socialize without a drink in hand.
Right.
And so now to have that gone, I've got to learn how to start all over again. But I think it was so great to have other people that were with me doing this journey with me. That's what's been so fun, because I'll tell you right now, I know you're one of my peeps. We have a group of peeps that probably would give each other our kidneys at this point. You know what I'm saying? I think we're having the most authentic and true relationships we can ever have with another human being. And we've been able to do that all these years because we're no longer in the disease of addiction.
No, we're not. And being mindful of that, because I can slip into old behaviors. A drink doesn't come to mind much anymore when life gets hard, but other things will. If I overspend or eat too much sugar or want to retreat and isolate and work too much, workaholism. And it's like, okay, what is it that I'm not wanting to feel right now when those things come up? And it could be that maybe I've missed a couple of meetings, or I am just not even aware. Sometimes I just start talking and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that's what was going on underneath, within me. Because I don't often know that until I start processing it. I will process as I'm talking. I love to hear other shares around just how they're navigating life. We're so lucky that we have a place to go and share when life gets hard and when life gets great, because we need to hear that too. Like, life is freaking awesome. And gratitude has been the point. I've used gratitude, and I use it a lot more today because it does change me physiologically. Like, I can be in a down mood and I'll be thinking, what's going on that's really good in my life right now? And I will focus on 2 or 3 things and I immediately feel better. There is science behind that. And I use that to keep my head in more of a positive, loving state and in a state of service. Because if I'm not so self-absorbed in what's going on with me and I can give to someone else, that helps me get out of myself. And I did not know the first thing about doing that when I was in my disease, about being there for another human being and not expecting it to be a transaction. Just wanting to be there and hold space with them or listen. We are some of the best listeners. And I remember feeling quite struck by that when I had been in my first few meetings. I'm like, wow, everyone listens so well here. I wasn't used to it. People were talking in my life, people were talking over each other and waiting for the, one person to stop talking so they could start talking. And I was like, wow, they really listen and they really care. It was so freeing for me. It was like, I'm really glad I'm in recovery because this is a beautiful gift. And there are times around anniversaries, I will get anxious. That is a real thing. And I will share about it. Sometimes imposter syndrome will come up for me. I'm like, how the hell did this happen? And I know how it happened, but I'll have to look at it happened because of the people, my higher power, everything, that my willingness to show up. And that has helped give me gifts and tools that I can also bring outside of the rooms to others. Because I do feel that when we're called to service, we're called to service. And this is a call to service as far as I'm concerned. Like, I need to heal and I need to take what I've learned and the gifts that I have been freely given and share them. Even if it's just listening and just holding space with somebody. Not trying to fix it, just be there with them.
That is the beauty of this particular model, because in the end, it's like you're practicing all that you learned, all the principles and all of your affairs, right? And they are helping those that are suffering. And that's it. That's what keeps me going every day. Knowing that I'm not just little Heather on a little island in the middle of nowhere, just going through this, but no, I wake up and I think about, who can I reach out to today? Who can I just say hello to? And who can I just tell them I'm thinking of them? I mean, that is incredible, because I think I was kind of like that though, but I don't think I think it was like, what can you give me from that? Just be the love. But I just love that you've got, 31 years, my friend. When I hear you speak and talk and just the fact that I know you, I mean, I sit up straight and I just am in awe, because this is how it works for me, knowing that you're right there walking along. We're trudging on this road together. Are we trudging? I don't think so. I think we're skipping.
Yeah.
And, and it's not easy. And I'll tell you, I think the biggest shift, and I don't know when it happened, it's one of those patterns, because one of the things that I know that I brought into, many, many years of my sobriety living was a negative mind. I was always like focused on the negative. I couldn't focus on the positive. Why me? Victim thinking. But now it's like when something happens, it's not that why me or this is so bad. Now it's like, okay, this is curious. I'm just gonna just like pause, because you know what? I feel embodied in I have a sense of self now. I feel this wholeness. With years of feeling defective and damaged, I feel so whole. So that when things happen now, it's not going to take me offline like it used to. I'm now like tethered with an anchor. Maybe I'm spinning a little bit going, whoa. But now I'm like, it's just, okay, where am I going to go with this? What's the learning? And I recently heard something. I thought, this is so powerful, that there really are no mistakes. That all that life is about is just this learning, that we're always learning and learning and learning. And I think the mistake is when you think it's a mistake and then we just become bitter. We don't become better. We just become bitter, bitter, bitter. And a lot of people get stuck and just marinate in those resentments and can't get out of the blame. And that was me. And I don't want to be that person anymore. And I'll tell you what, when I'm really not sober and my emotional sobriety has been affected, it's amazing how I'll go back to those those characteristics, right back to blaming, resentful. I mean, I go right there. It's like a switch. There's not even the dial doesn't even do, I mean, I'm like, bam, on certain situations, but I'm now learning to like, okay, I feel that resentment coming. Let me just pause. Let me just become curious about that resentment. Because this is one that's been around for a long time. And here you
Right.
are again, and welcome. And talking better to ourselves too. I bet you talk so nice to yourself now, don't you?
Much better. Much
Yeah.
better. Yeah. I was pretty hard on myself. And I have a tendency to still be somewhat hard on myself, but those are just old traits that I'm still working on, because we're still working. I'll still be working on myself for as long as I'm here. That's part of being here, is dealing with how can I grow and learn to love myself more so that I can be of authentic service and love others. And I can say I do authentically love people for who they are and not for what they can give me. And, we're human. We make mistakes. When I share about an anniversary, and there are some that they see 31 years and they're like, oh my God. And you know what? Today, we all have the same amount of sobriety, because it's
Exactly.
a 24-hour reprieve. That's it. And that we can do it one day at a time, not picking up, going to meetings, working all of the recovery principles that help us to skip down this path together, right?
And
Happy
I think it's,
destiny.
and I think it's really, and just having a sobriety date, people were always asking me, like, what's your sobriety date? Back before I was wanting to have a sobriety date, because I didn't get here. I got here at age 21 through the courts. So it took me to age 40 to get sober. So I was like, yeah, I don't have a sobriety date. But when I finally chose a date, there was something very magical about really like making that my day, just starting from there. And only trying to stay in today. And that's what I say a lot, just for today, just staying in today. And this is just accumulation. And it is astounding. I mean, I'm in my 25th year. So, I mean, it's astounding, 31 years. It's astounding that we have over 50 years together here of sober living. It's a miracle. And I don't take it for granted for 1 second. But it takes having people like you in my life. And it takes the love and connection of others who have stood behind me. And whenever I've even given a thought to drinking again, I see all your faces. I see all your faces standing next to me, just looking at me with big eyes like, no, I can't. I never relapsed. I mean, and I think I was too afraid, but I really do feel like I had taken it to the limit. Like I had no more choices. Like I was up against the wall. There was no other way of going. I had tried it all. I couldn't find another way. We surrendered. And that's what it was.
Exactly.
And you surrendered 31 years ago yesterday, right?
I surrendered. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a very new experience for me. And at the same time, I was so desperate. It was the gift of desperation. And, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm an alcoholic in recovery. It's a blessing. And I don't want it to become a curse. I want it to be the blessing it's been, because it's gotten me closer to a higher power. It's helped me connect with beautiful people like you. And we have such a wonderful circle of friends and people that are walking this path alongside us. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done. It really is. Consistently. I'm like, wow, I really was done. You
think on my tombstone, I could put like a little circle with a triangle on it? And you can put my year, and don't even write anything else about me. Just put my date and all that, because that's all that really, the biggest accomplishment of my life has been this. And it may not make sense to some of you that are new, but it will one day, because this is when my life really began.
Yes.
When I took my life back.
Exactly. And life gets really, really good.
Yeah.
Right? I love you, my friend. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Recovery the Whole Enchilada. And if you connected with today's episode, please share it and like it and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your feedback definitely helps us shape future conversations. So we do appreciate your feedback and we love you. And remember that your recovery story, with all its flavors and textures and complexities, matters deeply. And until next time, stay strong and keep growing.